Welcome to Exploring Santa Cruz, a bi-weekly program on KSQD 90.7 FM. I'm Mathilde Rand, and I'm your host today. My guests are Felicia van Stolk and Kiersten Elzy-Loving, both of the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History. Felicia van Stolk was born and raised in Santa Cruz County, benefiting from many opportunities to learn and play in nature on the Central Coast. Her work at the museum has involved expanding and diversifying its educational programs for school groups and the public. As the museum's executive director, she is excited to be leading this 117-year-old institution into the future. Kiersten Elzy-Loving is a longtime Santa Cruz resident and supporter of local educational and environmental programs. Her work with the museum primarily focuses on public outreach, resource development, and as a liaison with organizations that support the museum's work connecting people with nature and science. Welcome, Felicia and Kiersten.
Hello.
Thanks, Mathilde. It's nice to be here.
Good. Felicia, could you start giving us a little history of the Museum of Natural History?
Yes, absolutely. It's an exciting history because we are the oldest museum in Santa Cruz, and we started over 117 years ago. Our founder grew up in the lighthouse. Laura Hecox was the daughter of our first lighthouse keeper, and that meant she grew up tide pooling at Lighthouse Point, collecting seashells, fossils, all kinds of wonderful natural objects that caught her interest as a child. And she built an amazing collection in the lighthouse where she eventually took her father's post and hosted public tours of her collections. That collection eventually was deeded to the city in 1904. It's moved around to several city buildings, starting at the main library, going to the high school, and eventually made its way to Seabright in the Crafts House in the 1930s, and then its final home where it is now in what was a Carnegie Library in Terrell Park. It came there in 1954, and we're still there.
I understand that you have quite a number of collections, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So Laura Hecox natural history collections were just the first collections that came to the museum. And since then, many, many more items were donated and collected by the museum, including some ethnography items, some arts items, and really a lot of fossils and Native American baskets. It's a really wonderful and diverse collection.
And you're sharing those with many, many people. Let's start first with what school and youth programs you offer and why. And what do students and the schools experience? What's the impact of those programs?
Yes. So throughout the school year, we have programs for elementary school students that introduce them to the natural history of the area and also to a little bit of cultural history, especially Native American cultural connections to nature. And it's all about that nature connection. We take students out into city parks, and we especially like to partner with city parks because those are areas where kids can always return and really feel connected to a place and continue their exploration of nature. So we use the outdoor spaces and we use museum collections as a way to ignite curiosity. We do a lot of asking questions and tapping into a student's own inner scientist and ability to critically think and build meaning on their own, using their own senses. It's a really wonderful way to tap into learning, and it's also a great way to make the most of our beautiful natural areas and natural history collections inside the museum.
I used to be a teacher. Once a year, I took my students to the museum, and I taught third grade, and I taught second and third grade. The enthusiasm that the kids had going to the museum and totally being absorbed by the stories that the people who were presenting to the kids and getting them involved, the absorption was just so delightful. I took pictures of the kids totally tuned into and learning, and then coming back to school and drawing, telling stories about it. It was for us teachers a very welcome addition to what we were presenting to the kids, because the knowledge that the people who presented or worked with the kids was just incredible. then how they got them involved. And then, of course, at the end, everybody had to sit on the whale.
Yeah, of course.
And everybody had to get their picture taken. And then we went to the beach, which was very nearby. And so we had lunch there, and then they played for a while. For some kids, it really changed something in them. Do you get any feedback from schools, what's happening with the kids?
We loved to hear that, and that part of learning in nature and using those hands-on opportunities, using replicas of skulls and fossils to explore, is really at the heart of what we do, because it just works for so many students, including students who might not learn as well in the traditional classroom because they just need to get their hands on their learning. And so it's a great grounding moment for them. And I love to hear that teachers are able to build off of that in their classrooms. And we do continue to work with teachers to make sure that it's not just this one-day experience, but it's something that they can lead up to in their lessons and something that they can carry on in conversation back in the classroom. So we're really happy to see that and to hear that feedback from our teachers. And we've also been able to extend that to the online learning that we've provided over the last couple of years, so that it's not just going back to the classroom, but it's able to go into the home, and it's able to reach students who are learning in different ways, well beyond the classroom or the museum as well.
Kiersten, anything to add?
Moreover, I think what's really powerful about it is the way that it travels with children as they go out back into their communities, whether it's a city park or walking on the beach or even just picking up a leaf off the ground, the opportunity that they get to engage the adults in their circle about, this is what I saw, this is what I learned. It makes it very real for them. And I think one of the most powerful, I always say that museums are a gateway to the whole expansive vision of what science and nature offer us. And I love to see the children come back into the museum with a grandparent or a parent and walk through, and you hear them reciting not only what they've learned from our educators, but also what they've noticed out in the world or what's different in our tide pool than the last time they were at the museum. And then to take them outside and hear them say, those are the bees and these are the flowers they pollinate. And it's connecting those dots that also fosters stewardship, which is a really important component of our mission statement. It's connecting people with nature and science, but it's because it fosters stewardship. People protect what they love. And the children definitely come out of the visits they do at our museum with a reverence that is very beautiful to witness.
And you're building community.
We are building community because it's a multi-generational experience. And that's what's so powerful about the public programs that have been activated over the last several years. Is the museum's always been an absolute gift to the community, but the way that this new generation of educators and this new generation of leadership at the museum is kind of just moving it into the next level. And I can say that because I've been around for a while, but they really have activated something new. And the museum at your side, which is the online resources that were developed during the pandemic shutdown of schools, has actually proven to be this incredible tool for people all over to engage with the museum in a much broader and more in-depth way.
While you were talking, I'm thinking back to the first person who, with her curiosity, made her first collection. I feel the connection with her because that's what we do. I mean, when I go to national parks or state parks or the beach, I get enticed by whatever is around me. And I'm not unique. Kids like that, and I love to see it in kids, but I find it in myself too. So I'm just thinking back about her, Laura Heacox.
Yes, exactly.
What made her do that? Her dad was the lighthouse manager for a while, and I think then her mother was, and then at some point she was.
That's correct. Yeah.
But while she was here as a kid, she started collecting. And when I saw that in my kids when I was teaching, it really made me proud of our role as adults. And I'm sure you see that as museum as well. You are contributing something to this person's happiness, curiosity, development in all ways, because you say you're doing hands-on. And the picture you sent me about this young adults showing these kids something that they picked up from the tide pools was just really heartwarming. because that's what life is about. Not all this stuff that what's happening right now. You are building community, and you are part of my life, and I'm glad to meet you today for the first time, and probably one of these days I'll have to go visit the museum again, because for me it's been 35 years since I've been there.
Please do. It will look a little different. We've definitely updated everything, but keeping that right at the heart. Laura's story, which is so inspiring, is still right at the heart of everything we're doing at the museum, but we're refreshed. So if you come back, it will look really different, but hopefully still have that really great feeling of excitement for just sharing and learning and making observations, because, as Kiersten said earlier, we are this building full of amazing artifacts, but it's really the questions and excitement and intellect that gets turned on by looking at those artifacts and touching them that we're really all about.
We'll continue with our conversation, but I want to remind people who are listening that this is Exploring Santa Cruz on KSQD. The topic is the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History. My name is Mathilde Rand, your host, and my guests are Felicia van Stolk and Kiersten Elzy-Loving. So let's return to our conversation and talk maybe about the public programs.
Well, I do want to address one of the things that you said that was super powerful for me. And I think it's a flashpoint for a lot of folks who are learning more about the museum recently since we reopened, is that what it took for Laura Hecox to do what she did when she did, there must have been a powerful spark that she experienced standing on the same cliff that we all go to look off of and stare at the glory of the Monterey Bay. And to be a maverick and an iconoclast and to pursue that, and to, I think one of the things Felicia can speak to more beautifully than I can, is that Laura became a resource for scientists all over the country and beyond, because as a young woman in a bustle and button shoes, hiking down that cliff to go discover, to touch, to explore, to understand. And I know that she became an expert on mollusks.
That's right.
And a few other
Snails
things. Yes, snails. And what I also think is powerful about what children and other folks too experience through the museum, and more importantly and in depth, is our programs, which I encourage folks to look up, is that you don't have to be a scientist to be a naturalist, and you can be engaging in that deeper study of things that fascinate you without having to have formal education to do it. And I really love the social aspect of what people can pursue through the programs that introduce new ideas or new information to them through the museum. It's a very important part of the work that we do.
Let's broaden a little bit our conversation beyond schools and youth programs, the wider public. You already mentioned online science talks. You have stewardship projects. What about this First Fridays at the museum?
It's a great segue from what Kiersten is talking about, the ability to come to learn about natural history from so many different angles. So we do have the traditional science talks online and more traditional learning like that for the public, but we also have so many other ways to really get involved in learning about and enjoying the environment. So from really jumping into volunteer stewardship projects and gardening in our Garden Learning Center, that's a very active way to dive deeper. But we also have arts projects and arts exhibits that can engage people with a different entry point. It's a different way to look at nature, short of being a scientist with a capital S. At First Friday, we have free admission, after-hours activities, both inside the museum and the surrounding park. And it's an opportunity to explore natural history in a really casual, fun atmosphere where you're connecting with friends, community members, and other scientist partners that we bring in every first Friday of the month. So that's a nice, more party, casual opportunity to do a little bit of learning while having fun and doing crafts or enjoying some cocktails in the park. Next First Friday in July will be all about microbiology. And yes, there will be microscopes and hand lenses and an opportunity to explore the little things that make all of life work. But it'll also be just a lot of fun, to talk about it and see some cool things that come from the microscopic world.
What's wonderful is because of our location, not only are you experiencing it within the museum, but you walk outside and science is alive in real time for you, but also the naturalist in you can be inspired because, let's face it, it's not too shabby to spend a Friday evening outside in a Santa Cruz summer and right across from Seabright Beach. But watching the fog roll in, watching the birds that we have come through Terrell Park, it all puts it in immediate perspective in a really lovely way. So people are looking at a microscope, but then they walk outside and there might be a fungus on on a stick that they didn't notice before, or a certain kind of lichen. And there will be someone there who can talk to them about it in a really lovely way.
Well, you're talking about fungus. You also organize a fungus fair, right?
We are the original home of the fungus fair.
Yeah.
We do not organize it per se. We collaborate with the Fungus Federation of Santa Cruz County. And we've had a lovely relationship with them for many decades.
You gave them the spark.
Well, I would like to think that we helped fan the flame. How's that?
That sounds really good to me. Talking again about what we're talking, giving a spark, having people take it their own way and take it different directions.
Exactly.
So wonderful. And you have guided nature walks?
Yes, and this is a great way to get to know Santa Cruz and the environment better. If you've lived here your whole life, I think you'd still learn so much by going on a guided hike with us. And it's also wonderful for visitors to the area to discover a favorite spot of locals. We have our naturalists, and we go all over the county. And sometimes the walks are really focused on one theme, like, oh, we're just going to go birding and learn about every single bird that goes by. And sometimes it's a little more general if we're just visiting a very special place, and there's always something unexpected to interpret and talk about and look at. So our guided nature walks, we don't often walk very far because there's just so much along a very short span of trail that we get so excited to talk about. And in particular, we've been visiting a lot of the burn zones lately, and that's been fascinating to see how nature is recovering.
And we've had a really exceptional relationship with the state parks folks to help us understand how to do it in the right way. Everyone's curious about the burn zone, but how we interact with it as it's in this period of regeneration and recovery is imperative to exercise a lot of mindfulness about, but also an incredible opportunity to feel like a scientist because you are watching things evolve and shift in real time. And as we have this really lovely symbiotic relationship with the boots on the ground rangers and folks who are doing the research and observation, we can help, again, that word is going to come back, steward, folks in our community who are interested in learning more about it, to do it and take that back out into their social circles, what they've learned.
It's not just going out there and observe. You actually monitor and you collect data?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's right. So during each of the walks that are associated with our CZU Lightning Complex and Community Science Project, yes, we are going on walks and doing a lot of interpretation, but we are also training everybody how to use iNaturalist, which is a way that community scientists can take data and support scientists who are learning about what's recovering, what's not recovering, what's growing and living in any given area. So it's an opportunity to learn, but also to give back and go away with some real tools that you can use in your daily life to contribute to science.
I hear you use the word iNaturalist.
Yes.
That's a new word.
Yes. So iNaturalist is a community science platform. It's an app on your phone, and it's a very elegant solution to letting people gather information. You can take a picture of a flower or a bug, and you put it in the app, and a scientist can say, oh, wow, that flower lives there. That's a good piece of data. And you can imagine that in the fire zone, scientists really want to know what is able to live there, what is not able to live there. And they're keeping track as nature rejuvenates itself and comes back to life in that area.
And even excitingly, what new things are living there has been a very interesting result of some of these citizen scientists and new engagement that we're getting. But it also helps us teach people so that they're teaching each other how to interact with these places, how to, if you're curious, here are the ways to do it that are low impact or positive impact versus just, I want to go see the burn zone and I'm going to take off and do it. We're hoping to create levels of engagement that make it more interesting to do it with us. And so far, they fill up very quickly. So continue to track our website because we add dates as we can.
So it's not just burn tourism. It's not gawking at what happened to nature and people. It is actually going there and giving back to the community with data and information that scientists can then interpret and possibly give some solution and making new discoveries.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. You indeed have grown tremendously in the 35 years since I've been at the museum. It's remarkable. So any scheduled volunteer opportunities, people go on the guided nature tour, I'm not sure, walks, are they scheduled through the website? Is it?
Yes, we're adding new walks and learning opportunities almost daily. So it's definitely something to keep track of on our events page. And then we have a lot of different types of volunteer opportunities, from the casual drop-in type things to a more regular opportunity like a volunteer who would come out and support our school programs. We have a summer volunteer orientation coming up on June 15th, and it's a great way to learn more about the museum and learn about all of the different ways that a volunteer might help us with our mission. There's event support where people are welcoming people to the First Fridays events or things like that, gardening, beach cleanups. All of these things are going to be happening on a rotating basis throughout the summer.
That's fantastic. And so you do the volunteer orientation every year?
We do them multiple times throughout the year to make sure that folks are aware of the next cool way to help out at the museum. We also have paid internships and all kinds of opportunities to get involved at different levels, depending on what time you have and what you're interested in.
And how long does the orientation take for people who might be interested?
I believe it is no more than 2 hours. It might be an hour and a half.
Oh, that's doable.
Absolutely. And we encourage students to engage with us. That's one of the best things we can always, I tell them often, as I did the other day, it's the best deal in town. Mm-hmm. And because we have so many wonderful programs that are really fun and engaging and a great way to socialize, if you're new in town, and volunteering with the museum is a great way to connect with people.
I can imagine. So we're talking about going to the website. So let's mention the website.
Yes. So that is santacruzmuseum.org.
And people can email you too.
Yes. info at santacruzmuseum.org.
And if they are not computer interested, they can call you.
Yes, absolutely. So 831 is the area code, 420-6115. And our front desk extension, if you want to skip through the menu, is extension 10. Just go straight to a person.
Perfect. So we talked about a little bit of history. I loved Laura Hecox. I can connect with her. School and youth programs, public programs. And is there anything else that you would want the listeners to know that we didn't mention?
Yes, actually, just today I've been helping to install Remembering Castle Beach, which is a new exhibit that will be up throughout the summer, opening this Saturday. It was a wonderful exhibit of historic images and memorabilia from Seabright Beach when it had a great big castle on it. That's the origin of the nickname Castle Beach, and it's also a really interesting way to look at the history of this coastline. Through the historic photos, we can see a lot of change along the coast, and so we're connecting our local history, cultural history, with the natural history that is really shaping our environment. You can see it in the images, along with some really cool retro bathing suits and old cars and things like that, too. So that's opening this Saturday.
This Saturday, June
11th.
June 11th, and it opens. So how long will the exhibit be?
It will be open through the end of August.
Okay. plenty of things to do during the summer.
Yes.
One of the things that's most exciting about that exhibit for me as a longtime Seabrae resident is we've been interacting with so many folks that have a lot of family history in the neighborhood, so to speak. And so the collaboration of getting the interpretation and then the work that our team has done to put it all together has been a really wonderful community-sourced aspect of our current about to open exhibit.
So I want to thank you. I know we're running out of time, but there's way more to talk. So what I have to do is go to the museum.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And sign up for the volunteer orientation or one of them that is coming up and go on a guided nature walk and maybe even one day participate in the community science project.
Yeah. And one of the easiest ways to stay abreast of what we're doing is signing up for our mailing list. We don't share it with anyone, but we do share events and added dates for events that people may have been interested in but were full. So getting on our email list is a great idea.
Well, let me repeat the website then, santacruzmuseum.org. And if you'd rather email, info@santacruzmuseum.org. And you can call at 831-420-6115. So I want to thank you, Felicia van Stolk and Kiersten Elzy-Loving from the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're deeply grateful for your time.